I'm a cartoonist. I've published a number of graphic novels and book-length comics. About 10 years ago or so, I was finishing Out on the Wire. And, this is a book that I'm extremely proud of and love how it went into the world. And it's still, it's being used by all kinds of people in classrooms and all kinds of stuff. And what I had not been able to figure out was how to make a living as an author, how to make selling books work for me. And so I was doing what most authors do, which is I was teaching. I had adjunct teaching jobs. I was, I had jobs as an editor. So all kinds of different jobs to try to support my author career. So I was burnt out. I was just like burnt to a crisp at that point. And I was kind of staring down the barrel of like another book. Like, the advances that I earned on that book were long gone. So that's when I started learning about business explicitly. Now, obviously, I had been in business for 20 years, but I never thought of it that way. And I think that's something I find with my audience of people in the creative fields. Very frequently, they get into whatever they're doing because they love what they're doing. They want more time for it. So they try to make it professional and make it a business, but they have no learning, no training around that, which, and I've also discovered that no one else does either. It's not like there's some segment of people who gets out of school like, I know what to do. Like nobody learns this stuff in school. So that's where I was at. The thing that doesn't work as an author is capacity, right? Like the amount of time it takes to put into creating these works versus the amount of money you can make from them, with obviously unicorn exceptions, but for the vast majority of authors, it's just totally out of whack. Like you're selling something and you make a profit of, if it's self-published, maybe you're making $6 on it. If it's, commercially published, maybe you're making $1.50. The number of books you need to sell and the way you would need to do marketing to sell that number of units of thing, no one tells you that. Like no one explains the exponential numbers you would need to be in front of to make that work outside of zeitgeisty, unicorn events. And so literally no one ever taught me that. And eventually I figured it out through working with different coaches on different things and having this calculator here and that calculator there and going like, oh, now I see that I would need to have an audience of like 5 million people in order to be able to sell 100,000 books in a year. Like I would need that scale. And to have that scale means having a kind of lifestyle in terms of what you're doing with your marketing that I just don't, if you're trying to write books and make comics, you don't have time for that. Even if you wanted to do it, you don't have time. So all of those things were just like crashing down around me over time where I was like, oh my God, that, all these different ways in which these sort of underlying structures fit together mathematically. It's not hard math. It's just nobody learns it. And so as I've gradually gone through my business journey, I've become a business coach for people who have creative businesses to try to help them understand how to apply these principles and actually design something that could work for them, including the marketing. Because I think the biggest piece of this is like not understanding how to match up the marketing that you're doing with the thing that you're offering. So to compress all the sort of business journey part, 10 years of learning stuff, it really took me about 6 of those years at least to start to grasp how important business models are. Like the choice of your business model. What does your offer look like? How is it priced? How much time does it take? And then how does that relate to your marketing? How does that relate to how you're going out into the world? Because all of those things, the thing that doesn't work as an author is capacity, right? Like the amount of time it takes to put into creating these works versus the amount of money you can make from them for the vast majority of authors, it's just totally out of whack.
Love it. And I hope everyone listening is like me, taking notes. I have a couple follow-up questions because I'm like, okay, I'm really curious about this. But what I loved what you said is specifically for my creative folks out there in the world, we want our pie in the sky dream is we create the thing and then people just come and find it and they fall in love with it and suddenly everybody loves it. Like that's our goal going into it. And then we realize somewhere in there that we actually spend more time and energy and effort on marketing the thing, and it builds this sort of resentment up. And I think that's very common. I just love that you kind of pointed this out, especially for creative people. It's hard to build a business off of that model. I love that you brought up authorship as an example, because you do have to live almost like an influencer celebrity style life to be able to fuel that passion.
So first of all, not if anybody's experiencing that, it's not your fault. This is what we're told is going to work. You do a thing and it's great enough and people come. No one, when you're going through school, you're going through art school, you're going through liberal arts school, you're learning your craft, it never comes up that this is a part of that, the business model picture, that you have a business model, that there is one. Like none of that comes up. And so if it's, confusing and you wish it were a different way, I get it. I mean, it doesn't come out of nowhere. But yeah, this thing, and I think that people end up in a situation where they're like not making enough money. They're working their asses off, excuse me, working their butts off.
No, you can say this is a safe space,
Okay.
okay?
To bring in whatever they're bringing in. They're working too many jobs and they're baffled and resentful. Like, why are people telling me to show up on Instagram? And I show up on Instagram and nobody does anything and I'm not selling the things I need to sell. And I've sold a bunch of these. People love them, but I can't get it beyond X point, like it tops out here. And it's also baffling if you don't understand that underlying, literally mathematical relationship between the number, like what the numbers are. A lot of creative people want to create whatever it is. Essentially, no matter what form it takes, it's a product, right? It's like pre-created. It's something that exists, and then you try to find an audience for that and sell the thing, which is inherently challenging. Just trying to find enough people who already want that thing and who are already in that audience. It's just hard. It's just like, it's a lot of work to find those people. Not impossible, just a lot of work. But if you are creating something that's a service of some kind or another, then if you're doing it with strategy and forethought, you are creating something that there's already a need for it. People are already looking for it and they want to buy that thing. And also, this is also very important for this whole model thing, is it needs to be something that's priced at a relatively premium level, depending on what your financial needs are. Maybe very premium, maybe like medium premium, but it needs to be priced high, or you're going to be stuck trying to sell to many, many, many people because of those exponential numbers. And that means you're going to be spending all your time doing marketing. So if you want to do only a portion of your time doing marketing, and keep that under control, you have to have an offer that has a higher price point. That's what the math tells us, period.
Yes. 100%. I'm co-signing everything that you were saying, because this is a challenge that I bump into a lot. So I love that you mentioned the service side of it as well, but I can already hear the hesitancy from a lot of people listening where they're like, okay, have an offer and now I have to create something entirely new to be able to sell something. And there's this objection that happens a lot, especially in online business space, this passive income idea that we've been fed, this passive income idea where we create it and then we relax on the beach and it just sells in our sleep, right? And when you talk about a service, to me, when I hear that, it requires active input from the person delivering the service. How do we overcome this objection or this thought of, it sells in our sleep, we create it once and the people will come and buy it?
I mean, does it sound familiar? Like that's exactly the dream about, writing a book or creative work or whatever. Is like
Yeah.
you make a thing and people will come in the door. The fact is, passive income, it doesn't exist. I have a friend who has a business that sells relatively priced courses, and she doesn't do what you do with social media, but she posts on YouTube. She uses ads significantly. She creates webinars. She has funnels. There's like different sequences, all the different stuff. She loves it. It's a business she loves. And if you love doing that kind of stuff, fantastic, do it. I'm not trying to say there's anything better or worse about any of these ideas. But if you're somebody who is like, oh, I don't really like marketing, then you do need to redesign your business model and your offer around something that you can price more, higher. And I get a lot of people too who are like, oh, well, I have this idea for this course because I really just want to be hands off and not be doing stuff. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. And I have a feeling that's because you're so over capacity right now. Like you're doing so much stuff to try to make your financial life work that it feels impossible to do some kind of service that's going to actually require time of you. It feels like
Ooh.
it's too much, right? I just can't. How could I possibly fit that in with all of this other stuff? And the whole point is you need to redesign from the foundation, from the base. This is what I do in my coaching. Like this is, we start with the business model, then we go to the offer, then we do market research and refine the offer, then we do like an MVP pilot thing. And at the end of this, after we do sales, then we do a marketing plan. That's at the very end, because you have to have this structure that can potentially deliver the kind of revenue you need in the amount of time you have. First, you have to have that. If you try to like force it from the other direction, like you're talking about, they come in and they're like, I have this thing. How do I sell it? Well, if you're going to start with the thing, you're going to have to follow the rules of the thing, you
Yeah.
know? So if you have a course that sells for $500 and you want it to be this passive, quote unquote, passive thing, you better be ready to have a bunch of marketing channels that you're feeding regularly, using ads, spending a bunch of money on ads, creating funnels, using automations, getting real comfortable with the tech. If you do all that, it could work, but that's what it requires. And so when I'm talking to people about working with me, that's what I lay out. I'm like, okay, these are your options. You can do what you want, but like, if you're trying to get out of the constant grind of marketing, you have to do marketing, period, like to feed your business. But if you're trying to get out of this sort of like constant like content grind and whatever, this is what it looks like. You have to come up with a business model and an offer that makes it possible to escape that grind. And so that it's not even mindset, but that situation people are in where they're like, how I don't one-to-one, or like, service for, it's so demanding. It's so like, how do I possibly do that? It's like, well, because you wouldn't be doing all this other stuff. Stop doing that and put that energy into this. And it could feel actually kind of life-giving and great. But you have to be able to imagine not doing all the other stuff.
100%.